So this section is really about taking things a step deeper. Now that we have a good understanding of the settings and other specific camera techniques, I wanted you to be able to get some real life learning from someone who's taken their career a long ways and is also creating content that is really relevant for today's type of video creator, where he's using film techniques mixed with shooting with modern equipment. So it's going to be a really cool one-on-one sit-down discussion and advice from an expert that's really going to give you some essential tools to take into the rest of this course. So sit back, get out your pen and pencil or your notepad. There's a lot of good truth bombs in these next two learning lessons. So let's get into it. Cool, so Hunter, thank you so much for coming on as a guest speaker for this part of the course. So far, the students have really dove into how to use lighting and how to really set up their camera to get the best looking video possible. And you've been on my radar for a while, and you know, we've kind of connected on a few projects here and there, but I saw your iPhone commercial, let's just call it. And it's really the perfect part in the course and really the perfect topic that I wanted to have you on to kind of speak and go through that amazing project that I saw and give some tips, give things that are applicable for smartphone shooters and all types of new filmmakers.
That sounds exciting, dude. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And then what's just maybe a little mini background? I'll have some cutaway shots, a montage of your Instagram, your website. What's like, you know, your elevator pitch of, you know, where you are today?
Yeah, so to your listeners, my name's Hunter. I run a business called Unemployed Movement currently, and I've been in the digital marketing and content creation industry, if you want to call it that, for about 7 years now, and have gone through kind of different models. That I worked in an agency right out of school in Colorado. I was like in the action sports world, and then moved to California and was a freelancer, doing a lot of just, you know, freelancing content, whether that's making social media content, doing photography jobs. A lot of my, I think, unique skill lies in digital marketing. I think that's a little bit of a differentiation factor between like a filmmaker, because I do come from more of the marketing background in the sense of like shooting courses and managing podcasts, more so than I guess you can say like kind of the creative industry. So kind of to bring up the concept of the iPhone videos and why I kind of actually put a little bit more energy into understanding that type of stuff, because it is a little less equipment heavy, right? We're not using like DSLRs or cinema cameras. We're using a little iPhone in my pocket. It was more from the perspective of understanding like that is how most people are using tools, whether not necessarily filmmakers, but just influencers, creators, people who want to use social media to build their personal brand. So using that and understanding that from a perspective that's how a lot of people are going to use it. So not so much only filmmakers. So that's kind of my approach to understanding that stuff, and especially in the sense that nowadays with Instagram Reels and TikTok and all of these ways that we use social media, a lot of people are using the more basic tools to do those things. And I think understanding that, even if you are a high-level filmmaker, is important. And I think it can be easy to shun it because it's less fancy, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's really important because that's how most people are using their equipment and using social media.
100%, I agree with you. It took me some time for my filmmaker ego to kind of let go of like even using iPhone stuff, and now I'm actually kind of incorporating it into more higher produced projects in a way that's fun, where all of a sudden there's a vertical video inside a 16:9 normal format project that's high quality, and then it cuts away to something that's just kind of more raw and feels fun. But the thing that I loved about what we're gonna dive into, your project, is that from the trained eye and the untrained eye, I mean, it looked quality. You know what I mean? So I really want to kind of go, you know, frame by frame and kind of a how and a why you did the things that you did for that project, kind of going through. You're going to do a screen cap for that to kind of show people, you know, it's the biggest thing is that, yeah, the equipment should never be holding you back. So I love, you know, your approach to it and kind of accepting this new wave of mobile filmmaking genre. I don't even know what to really call it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. One more point on that, like in the realm of Instagram and TikTok land, I noticed that often the clips and little reels that go viral are often like the most simple ones, like somebody like, you know, walking around with an iPhone and doing the crazy like jujitsu waves, and it's like, that's kind of dumb, but it looks cool, and it's like, maybe because it's novel, right? It's unexpected. It's something that you wouldn't see even amongst filmmakers. So it's kind of, I think that's interesting.
It is interesting, and yeah, the last thing I'll say about that is coming from a more filmmaking background. It's like pointing the camera at yourself and holding the camera was just like, or holding the camera and talking. As a filmmaker, you were always pointing the camera in front of you, quietly standing behind the camera as a creative, and now it's just so funny. It's all kind of mixed together. But yeah, man, I love the intro. Let's kind of hop into your video. Maybe we can play it all the way through so that students can see it, and then we'll go and you'll kind of dissect it.
Great. I actually have it in 2 layers too, so I stuck a GoPro on my head so you can actually see the behind the scenes shot, and that'll give you some context. So I'm going to pull it up right now, and I will just play it. All right, so first off, the first thing that came to mind when I thought about creating this video, I'm a teacher. I have a course like yourself. So I really wanted to show the process of creation instead of the end product. So that's why I put together this piece. Also, my students are, I guess, like creators, not so much filmmakers. You know, they're kind of in the realm of YouTubers. I hate the word influencers, but people who have, you know, a personal brand. And so that was the process of that. Specifically for this video, I live in Southern California. I wanted to create, you know, something that was a destination-based video. This is a coffee shop right in Venice, you know, and everybody knows the Venice skate park. Everybody knows the boardwalk. It's very nostalgic. That's why I chose this location. And then I just wanted to tell a story. After all, like any video, whether it's shot on an iPhone or DSLR or anything, like story is the base of everything. So my mindset was like, I'm going to just put together a little sequence that tells a story, something very simple, going out and getting coffee, and going and like watching the skaters at the Venice skate park. So that was kind of my mindset. And this is a pretty like simple sequence where it's just very linear, right? There's nothing, you know, dynamic. It's just like establishing shot, which is why I chose this shot, because it's kind of like showing the coffee location, then cutting into you know, more establishing shots, and then it really opens up to the, you know, the subject really is my girlfriend Amy right here. So just going through different shots, that's like not showing the full environment, and then I chose to open up halfway through to see, okay, that's the Venice boardwalk. You can't really tell in the beginning, then you could clearly see where it is, and then just ending with the scene at the skate park.
So how much of this was shot listed, storyboarded, and how much was just kind of, okay, concept, I want to do, like you mentioned, destination, cool vibe, very modern, kind of hipster, you know, the coffee thing is very like big. Was it, okay, I know where I want to shoot, I'm just going to do it? Or was it like shot list, here's shot 1, shot 2, shot 3?
Good question. I would say like 90% of the time in any project I do, whether it is just, you know, a fun Sunday morning or actually like a paid gig, I'm very analytical and structured. Ironically, like my girlfriend, I work with her and she like makes fun of me to the degree that I need to know every single angle and movement. In this case, I actually just was more free flowing. I knew like I wanted to put together certain shots. Like I knew I wanted to get establishing shots at the coffee shop. I knew I wanted to get a shot of the sign, but I did not shot list it out in order. But I did just go and shoot like 2 or 3 shots of the sign. And then I shot a few shots of the window. Then I got different angles and movements of the barista creating the latte. So it was very like, even though there was not an awareness around exactly the shot, I knew I was going to get certain shots and I was going to basically give myself as much room in an edit so I wouldn't like, you know, I imagine you can go through this process, you go out and you shoot and there's something that's just one thing that's missing, you're, God, I wish I had, you know, some type of panning movement to put here. If I don't have a shot list put together, I generally go out and do like 4 or 5 different versions of the same thing, like same shots of the sign with different movements, whether it's like pushing in, same shots of the coffee barista, or excuse me, different shots of the barista doing that same action. And that's generally how I kind of go into any shoot, because it just gives you more freedom if you were to need to. You kind of see it here. I mean, this is pretty like typical content creator practice, but using movement to match shots. So like I would come in and like even though I didn't use that drop movement, I had that there in case I needed to. So I can just cut that out, but I did use it in the second shot where I pull down and then match it with the shot of the cups. So that's kind of just something I would go into and just like making sure that I have the movements that I need if I need them. And then if not, then I have other shots to pull from. And then this is where I don't want to have the same transition for every single shot, but I do want to have some movement, something that is capturing somebody's eye. And also it's unique because this is an iPhone, right? Most people who are shooting on their iPhone aren't using more sophisticated camera movement transitions. They're probably just kind of just holding it like this, right? So I wanted to like think, how could I use something that is a little bit more in the filmmaking toolkit, so to speak, in a experience that's you know, less sophisticated. So that's why I chose the movements in the beginning. Obviously, going through this whole thing is cutting to a beat. It's just kind of like keeps the sequence flowing like organically. Using a mask, once again, not something that you would see with somebody shooting on an iPhone. It's just a little more sophisticated. And obviously just like leading people through the experience of like starting from the boardwalk and getting to the skate park. And that's pretty much it. All of it's just very simple cuts. And then just ending with the shot and just kind of like the culmination of chicks getting coffee, going for a walk, watching all the skater bros.
Mm-hmm. And so what you're saying is basically when you see the shot in mind or you already have it planned and written down, you're shooting it, 3, 4, 5 times to get what is it that you're getting? Is it like, I know it's like that feeling, you get the shot and you're like, okay, cool, I got it. But for you, what is that? When do you know that that's gonna go in the edit?
In a process like this where it's not as structured and exact, I just look for, is the composition good? Is it in focus? Is my hand shaky, you know? Like when you're using hand movement, I was using obviously just my iPhone, I didn't have a stabilizer or anything. I just wanna make sure I have at least 2 like clean takes. Something I know like I could use that. It's not shaky, things are in focus, there's not somebody in the background that I don't want to be there. I'll kind of just analyze all those kind of check marks, and if it passes, then I'll give it a green light.
Yeah, you're shooting all this stuff and then you're using like 10%, 20% of the shots and the rest is kind of throwaway stuff. On the technical side, were you using like Pro Camera or Filmic Pro, or were you actually using the native video recorder on the phone?
Yeah, I believe actually for this I used, you can see it on there, on the iPhone screen, the Moment app. Particularly because it allows you to very quickly change the frame rate. Obviously I shot this all in 60 frames, so I can slow it down. And it allows you to control the aperture, shutter speed, and all of the functions that you couldn't necessarily do, I don't believe you can, in the native camera roll camera in iOS. So that's a really great app, and obviously it shows you like the exposure and balance and all the extra stuff that you wouldn't have also, which is good.
And so what did you learn shooting this on a smartphone versus using one of your more professional level cameras?
You have to be aware of the composition, I think, more than if you have a DSLR, obviously because an iPhone has a really high quality camera, but the depth of field you just don't have, right? So being aware of the shots that you're able to use, it's almost like, here's a good example, like if you use a prime lens on a camera, it forces you to move your body, right? It's kind of like, it's kind of one of the oldest thing people say is like, if you want to get better at photography or videography, like use a prime lens so you don't zoom in, right? I feel like it's kind of that to a higher level. It's like, it forces you to focus on things that you could get away with a higher level piece of equipment, like composition, hand movement, right? Like I'm using a very light iPhone, so any little motion in my hand is going to catch. So being really hyper aware of how to do handheld camera movements is a really good thing to learn when you're using an iPhone. And I would say those 2 things, yeah, just being able to understand composition a little bit better, forces you to kind of only use what you have. And then secondarily is like if you're going to use hand movement or handheld movements, then it's a great way to kind of test your skills.
Right. And so with this, did you know you wanted to do it sound driven with a montage? Or did you entertain the idea of doing maybe Foley a montage driven by the live sound in the video?
Good question. No, I had the song in mind for this specific clip. So that was kind of that was actually the foundation of this video, and what kind of sparked the thought, because it kind of had this like kind of chill morning vibes energy to it. So it kind of was the foundation of why I chose this sequence, this story. And that's what kind of built off of that.
Perfect. And so have you been able to kind of use this project in any way outside? Has it brought in any kind of other gigs or anything like that? Any kind of, other things?
Yeah, as a filmmaker, it's not necessarily directly brought in a gig. It's not like somebody's like saw it and was like, hey, I need an iPhone video made for my company, right? I would say indirectly 100% in the sense that, well, for one, like I said, from an engagement perspective, not that likes and views matter, but they do when it comes to social media, development. This specific video got the most shares, and it also was shared on platforms that host videography and filmmaking content, like Learn Filmmaking, Filmmaker, like all of those kind of like theme accounts on social media, like Instagram. So that, to my mind, was like, oh, this is a shareable piece of content. So creating these types of content isn't necessarily a full depth, personally driven, creative expression type of project, but it's a project to get my account found. It's a project to teach. I mean, like I said, I have a course. So this shows people like, oh, I'm a teacher. I'm not just creating, photos for myself, which nothing wrong with that at all. Of course, that's great. So it's established me as a teacher. And also too, like I said, a lot of my students are, specifically focused on creating YouTube channels. And a lot of them are intimidated by the filmmaking process. So this shows them like, oh, you don't need to have, a $3,000 EOSR. You can start with what's in your pocket if you're willing to take the time to learn how to use the tool. And that's really what's come from this.
So what do you think it is? You're saying that this was one of your better, more engagement, more shares, more audience interaction with your probably lowest expensive piece of equipment, which is kind of a weird contrast, or it seems like it opposes, you know what I'm saying? So what is that sauce? What is that thing that other people can really hear and apply into equipment? Yes, it's important, but what is it about this video that created that engagement that other people are wanting in their videos?
I can get meta with that. A few thoughts. One, it's different. It immediately is different. Most people don't see people making cinematic B-roll sequences with an iPhone. So immediately right there. Two, it's a format that I recognized as something that's getting attention. I follow a lot of filmmaking accounts, and I was like, oh, this format of showing what you create, whether it's like the timeline on the bottom and the B-roll sequence on the top, or the actual filmmaking kind of POV style, I recognized, oh, these pieces of content are getting shared. These pieces of content are getting a lot of engagement. And I said, oh, I'm going to go start creating this. And I think the key to that is just being observant. And that always develops and changes, right? People use social media differently, and it always is evolving and changing based on, like, Instagram Reels just came out. Like, it's basically obviously like mimicking TikTok. I thought that was very interesting. That's a side tangent, but like, people use Instagram in a very specific way. People use TikTok in a very specific way. People use YouTube in a very specific way. But now that people got used to how to use TikTok, and all of a sudden Instagram Reels came out, now I'll see the TikTok dances on Instagram Reels. It's become like a meme of its own, right? And I think that's because it's how people are used to using a platform. And for the filmmaking photography community, the show people the process, then show them the result was very viral on TikTok. And I was like, oh, that's going to start carrying over to Instagram. So that was my mindset around why I did this. It's
a vibe. There's a feeling. It's storytelling in the sense of you're showing someone's experience, and you're giving it in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. And what can you kind of speak to that is that it's obviously all these techniques apply to any piece of equipment, But when it comes to storytelling and, you know, using video to tell that story, what have you kind of learned over the years with that process?
Good question. It's such like there's a finesse to a good video versus a great video versus a holy crap video, right? And it's all these little subtle things that come together. I don't claim to be the best technical filmmaker. I know there's so many people who are amazing at both the shooting and editing process, right? But it's like, if you can just like bring or be willing to teach yourself all those little elements and work on them, and they all come together, I think that's what makes something stand out. So in my mind, in this specific project, in this video, it's handheld. So can you shoot handheld video well? Do you know how to use your body and not just your hands? Do you know what types of shots can you shoot versus what you can, right? There's certain shots with the gimbal. If I was like chasing her and she was running, obviously it's probably, unless you're trying to get like a shaky kind of like, you know, action scene. But understanding how to do that is one thing. Color correction, right? So understanding how to color correct and grade a shot. Once again, something that's not typical for an iPhone video. But if you can bring all of those little elements together and understanding how to edit a sequence together that feels natural and not forced or awkward cuts, I think all of those elements coming together. So like a little bit of editing technique, shooting technique, understanding how to color grade, understanding how to cut a sequence to a beat and not just like randomly putting shots together to some song that doesn't really fit. I think those are all the elements that really come together. And that's, I imagine like something that's, once again, I'm a structured person, so you can break that down and kind of like put that onto a spreadsheet. And it's something that is just unspoken and kind of like you have to have a finesse and an awareness that's unspoken. And I think being able to have both of those elements is really what brings that together.
Right. So what's the one thing, if you were to do this project, now that you've done this one, and let's say you wanted to do, I want to do another 30-second, what's the one thing that you would upgrade or change to really make it even one step better?
It's a good question. I would bring in some element of humor or pop culture relevancy. Like what is something, because that's really the things that people connect with on the internet, whether it's on YouTube, especially in this short format, right? Is something that people relate to. Is it like, and it can be expressed in so many different ways, whether it is like getting in a fight with your girlfriend and kind of like creating a little sequence of that. Obviously audio, that brings something in, like actual dialogue. That's immediately something I would probably bring in, is like, how could I create like a little dialogue sequence that shows something that's relatable, humorous, and connects with people in that way. I think that's what I would do. Because that's really, I think, what people relate to, especially in short format content like Instagram and TikTok, which is obviously this was meant for that platform. And you see a lot of people who are in the like kind of social media creator world who do that type of stuff, and on the most like kind of like low quality way. They're not like, you know, color grading their footage and doing B-roll sequences, but they're doing something that connects with people that's relatable, whether it's like some goofy, you know, sequence of a girlfriend and a boyfriend ghosting each other while they're texting or something stupid like that. And it's kind of like, I think to a filmmaker or creative, like, oh, that's stupid, but like, that's what people care about. So how can you blend those two things together, the pop culture element and the relatability element with storytelling, filmmaking, and those two things together? I think that's the stuff that stands out.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you express the community thought or the stuff that so many people relate to, express that in a video? That's something that I'm really working on changing, you know, the type of content that I create for social media platforms. Because what I think is good is like high produced. What the majority of people is like entertainment, humor, something that, oh yeah, I know that, or I get that. So that's something that, I'm working on that balance as well. So to kind of sum it up and wrap it up here, what's kind of something you want to leave the students with, these cinematographers, upcoming video creators? You know, what's a little piece of advice, you know, that you've learned over the years you want to leave them with?
I would say this. I think it's easy to, especially as a filmmaker and a creative, to focus on what other people do and be overwhelmed by that. And I think it's hard to sometimes, when you get in your own head of like creating your own style and the way that you create content. I think though it's a balance of like kind of observing and learning from others while still at the same time creating your own style. So don't be so focused and headstrong about like, I want to do it the way that I want to do it. Nor on the flip side, don't be so focused on like, I'm going to do exactly what Sam Kolder do it and it's going to work and I'm going to be a travel influencer. And like, I was that person too. I literally like turned down jobs so I could go fly to Bali and like, I'm going to go film waterfalls. And that was the most amazing experience I've ever had. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to create the same result from that. Kind of my point when saying that is that focus on your style, focus what is authentic to you, and observe what people do. Because really the blend of the two is really, I think, how you're going to create success in that. Like I'm very much like coming from a background of digital marketing, so like I think more from a strategist more so than a creative. But if you can bring both those elements together, both the creative mindset and the strategic observant mindset, I think that's really what will stand out and kind of allow you to, one, not only be creatively fulfilled, but also understand like what type of content are people hiring for, you know? Where if I'm looking to become a full-time filmmaker and be paid for this, you know, career and skill, what types of jobs and things are people going to hire me for versus just the creative side of things? And I think both of those things need to kind of be understood and brought together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that, man. It's all about remixing and talk a lot about that. Taking yourself, your other people's ideas, and yeah, remixing and building something new, but building on top of what's worked before, you know? So, well, perfect, man. Thank you for coming on today and expounding on, you know, all the stuff that you learned on making this project. And of course, going to link to all your sites so that all the students can check out your work. And looking forward to seeing the next iPhone project, the next smartphone video.
Glad to chat. And
all right, thanks.
All right, and I just wanted to actually hop in here real quick to take a second to congratulate you on making it to the mid-course check-in. So as you've seen, we've gone through the first 7 main sections of the course. We had our on-set experience at the beginning. We had our hands-on experience after that. We went through our maximizing our video settings. We learned about camera essentials for great looking video. And then we got more hands-on experience for getting amazing looking interview footage in studio lighting and in natural lighting. And finally, we got some expert advice from our friend Hunter. Now there's gonna be a lot more that we're gonna get to in the course. In the next section, we're gonna be actually diving into pro tips and techniques for getting crystal clear sounding audio. So there's gonna be a lot of hands-on exercises and demonstrations in this section. You're gonna definitely wanna have whatever microphone that you're shooting on ready to go, because we're gonna go over different settings, different environments to record in, and really the best way to set up your video shoot to get the best sound dynamics possible. After that, we're gonna take our video one step further by introducing B-roll and cutaway shots. So in this section, you're gonna get a little bit more of a filmmaking understanding of the tips and techniques that feature films use and that more high-end video projects use to create a more engaging and well-rounded video using different shot types, using framing, shooting on multiple cameras, and a lot more techniques. After that section, we're gonna hop into one of my favorite parts of the course, which is effectively using camera movement. So we're gonna learn how to use the main types of camera movement. We're gonna do an in-depth analysis on those types of camera movement. We're gonna learn about speed, we're gonna learn about quality, and we're gonna learn how to synthesize all those techniques into an easily understandable way so that you'll be able to walk away from this course with super upgraded looking videos. In the following section, we're gonna get into using a shot list and continuing to upgrade our production style by introducing montage. There's gonna be a lot of hands-on detailed exercises with a final learning lesson where you're gonna go out and shoot your very own epic looking B-roll. And then we're gonna meet another one of our expert guest speakers, and we're gonna talk about lenses, camera, and audio equipment, and really a few practical takeaways that you're gonna really plug into what you've learned so far. And finally, we're gonna have the course conclusion chapter. There's gonna be some really cool bonuses in here. I don't wanna spoil the surprise, so I'll let you get there to find out what they are. But we're also gonna meet our last guest speaker, gain some final tips and takeaways, and learn how to continue to progress beyond this course. That is about it for our mid-course check-in. I wanted to again congratulate you because surprisingly, not very many students make it to this portion of the course. So you're part of a smaller team that you should be incredibly proud for taking the time and really taking your own growth seriously. So go ahead and pat yourself on the back for that. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to me, of course, you can do it in the Q&A section, or you can get directly in touch with me on my Instagram @JulianDiscovers. I will see you in the next chapter.